Raiden is a 1990 vertically scrolling shooter arcade video game developed by Seibu Kaihatsu and published by Tecmo in Japan. Although Seibu doubted Raiden's success, it managed to sell 17,000 arcade units worldwide. The title also became a critical success. The story of Raiden takes place in the year 2090 when a species of alien life forms known as the Crystals invaded Earth. The Crystals took control over most of Earth's military hardware to use in the invasion. In response, the world organization known as Vanquish Crystal Defense (VCD) develops the Fighting Thunder attack craft, a cutting-edge weapon based on crystal technology. To survive against the invaders and fight back, VCD deploys Fighting Thunder as the only hope for humanity. In Japan, Game Machine listed the title as being the most successful table arcade unit at the time. It was also an arcade hit in North America, where it became a chart topper. During November and December 1990, weekly coin drop earnings averaged $194.25 per arcade unit. Mega Drive/Genesis and Super Nintendo Entertainment System ports were given the name Raiden Trad across all regions. Super Raiden is a PC Engine Super CD-ROM squared version of the TurboGrafx 16 HuCard port. Its main new feature is the use of Redbook CD audio for an arranged soundtrack, along with additional stages exclusive to the CD version. It was developed by AI Company and released on the 2nd of April 1992 in Japan by Hudson Soft. Raiden 2 was released in 1993. This game expands on the first Raiden's mechanics, introducing two weapons, the Bend Plasma and the Cluster Bomb. The game's story continues where the first game left off. 3 years after the VCD repelled the invasion of the Crystals, the remnants of the machines controlled by the Crystals regroup to form another army to resume taking over the Earth. To combat this crystal resurgence, a new weapon is developed for the Fighting Thunder, designed from crystal technology to stop the Crystals again. In Japan, Game Machine listed Raiden 2 on their February issue as being the most successful table arcade unit at the time. In North America, Replay reported Raiden 2 to be the second most popular arcade game at the time. Raiden DX is an alternate version of Raiden 2. It has 3 different game modes, a 15-minute-long unbroken stage that does not allow players to continue the first 5 stages of Raiden 2, and 8 stages plus 1 bonus with new layouts. Raiden DX was ported to the PlayStation in Japan. In 1995, a spin-off to the main series was released as Viper Phase 1. By the year 2050, mankind begins the colonization of multiple planetary systems in the search for habitable planets. While the colonists establish original cultures and scientific studies, many of them begin feuding with each other. Armed conflict breaks out among them and the Earth. One rebel faction rises to great power and makes Earth their primary target. Earth's response is Operation Viper. Phase 1. To combat the rebels using advanced space fighters built from downed enemy ships. In Japan, Game Machine listed Viper Phase 1 on their July 1, 1995 issue as being the 9th most successful arcade game of the month. In North America, Replay reported Viper Phase 1 was the 6th most popular arcade game at the time. Raiden Fighters was released in 1996 on arcades and Microsoft Windows. The game's 7 levels are divided into 3 missions. The first 2 missions have 3 levels each, the first 2 levels being randomly ordered. The final mission takes the player to the enemy's main fortress. In Japan, Game Machine listed Raiden Fighters on their December 15, 1996 issue as being the 3rd most popular arcade game of that 2-week period. The game was followed by the 1997 sequel Raiden Fighters 2, Operation Hellfire. This game shares the same game mechanics as its predecessor, while expanding on the concepts that defined it. A new feature introduced in Raiden Fighters 2 is the hybrid attack, available only during a 2-player game. When 2 players are close to each other and use their charge attacks, the hybrid attack is activated, rendering both players invincible for the duration of the attack. Raiden Fighters 2 takes place 4 years after the events of the first game. A few surviving guerrilla groups gather under a dictator. They form a new nation and begin attacks on the protagonists. In response, retooled fighters were deployed in a new mission called Operation Helldive. In Japan, Game Machine listed Raiden Fighters 2 on their February 1, 1998 issue as being the 11th most successful arcade game of the month. Raiden Fighters Jet is a sequel to Raiden Fighters 2, released 1 year later. A mechanic introduced in this game gauges stage progression based on the player's performance. If the player performs well in a stage, the next stage will have a higher level number, allowing the player to reach the real levels earlier. Raiden Fighters Jet's stage branching mechanic is explained in the game as being part of a training simulation that gauges the player's performance in the simulation. Players who perform well in the simulation will get a chance to pilot the action in a real mission. Depending on the player's performance in the real mission, they will be either given the chance to fight a bomber carrying a nuclear cruise missile or be forced to withdraw before engaging it. In Japan, Game Machine listed Raiden Fighters Jet on their October 1st, 1998 issue as being the 6th most successful arcade game of the month. The Raiden Fighters series is considered a spin-off to the main series, which returned in 2005 with the release of Raiden 3. It is the first installment in the series to be developed by MOS, as it consists of former Seibu Kaihatsu employees who bought the rights to the series. Raiden 3 uses the Taito Type X arcade hardware, giving full 3D graphics to the series for the first time. In Raiden 3, the crystals have begun another invasion of Earth. VCD deploys a new model of the Fighting Thunder, the ME-02, to stop the crystals and save the Earth. The game's ending sequence shows the players fighting Thundercraft landing on the wreck of another fighting Thundercraft, transforming into a fairy. Raiden 3 is the first game in the series released on PlayStation 2. Meanwhile, Raiden 4 that came out in 2007 was released on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Windows and of course arcades in Japan, with the home port conversion beginning in 2008. The crystals have returned again after numerous defeats against humanity. The VCD immediately launches a new model of the Raiden fighter, the Fighting Thunder ME-02 Kai, to stop the crystals from taking over the Earth. Raiden 4 has received mixed or average review scores upon its US release, with both IGN and the official Xbox magazine scoring it a 6 out of 10. The gameplay of Raiden 4 is similar to the previous games. In each stage of increasing difficulty, players maneuver their fighter craft, engaging various enemies and avoiding their attacks. Raiden 4 OverKill is an enhanced version of Raiden 4 developed by MOS for the PlayStation 3 and Windows. This edition includes 2 new missions. This is the first game in the mainline Raiden series to not receive an arcade port. A special edition titled Raiden 4X Mikado Remix was released for the Nintendo Switch on April 22, 2021, and for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 on February 24, 2022. Raiden Fighters made a comeback with the release of a compilation including all 3 video games in the Raiden Fighters series by Seibu Kaihatsu on Xbox 360, titled Raiden Fighters Aces. The main series took an 8-year break until 2016 when Raiden 4 made a debut. It was released in Japan for the Xbox One on February 25, 2016, with a director's cut version being released worldwide for PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Windows in 2017, followed by a Nintendo Switch version on July 25, 2019, making it the first Raiden game to be made available on a Nintendo console since Raiden Trad on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Gameplay in Raiden 5 is a mixture of the prior installments, including Raiden Fighters. The plot incorporates real-life locations, with the player craft fighting enemies in New York, the Middle East, France, England, Belgium and Sweden. Unlike Raiden 4 and Raiden Fighters Jet, all aircraft have the same pre-installed bombs. Another change with Raiden 5 is the introduction of a shield/energy bar, allowing the player to take a number of hits before being destroyed. The game's story takes place 17 years after humanity's war with the crystals began. The Vanquished Crystal Defense, or VCD, awaits an attack order to launch Fighting Thunder to assist the North American Army, who have been decimated by attacks by the crystals. Aboard the VCD flagship, the Bellwether, Commanding Officer Richard Max Maxwell and Communications Officer Eshiria Portman lament that the VCD and the Fighting Thunders are being held back during what they consider a crystal contamination far bigger than in the past. Raiden 5 was released to generally favorable reviews, according to Metacritic. which provided aggregated scores of 75 and 73 for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 versions, respectively. Raiden Nova is a twin-stick shooter developed by Moss, released in October 2024 for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam. Raiden Nova departs from the traditional vertical scrolling gameplay of previous Raiden titles, adopting a twin-stick shooter format. Players control their ship with 360-degree movement and rotation, facing waves of enemies and bosses in levels focused on continuous combat. As of now, full Metacritic scores haven't been tallied, though one critic, Video Chumps, gave it a notably positive score of 80, praising it as one of the best surprises of the year. On Steam, the game enjoys positive reviews, with ratings around 77 to 82% positive based on 28 to 40 reviews. Raiden Nova has been celebrated as an enjoyable twist on the classic Raiden formula, without trying to masquerade as a core numbered entry. Raiden Fighters Remix Collection has officially been announced, though a release date is still pending. Looking ahead, the franchise appears poised to embrace nostalgia while cautiously charting a path toward a true numbered successor, one hopefully honoring Raiden's classic essence.